You're so silly.
Commissioners, thank you for holding a hearing, and thank you for my colleagues for explaining our petition, the freeholder petition. I could read these 3 bullets. I was the closer to wrap it up, right? You guys can read them, and it's the stuff we've already talked about. So instead of me doing that, I'd like to talk about moving. So I'm from Anaconda. Some of you might know that. And I'm not old enough to remember the smelter closing, but I'm old enough to remember moving. I'm old enough to remember my dad having to leave to find work, and only get to see him on the weekends and in the winter. I remember moving out of our house on Elm Street and living in little rental places around town. I remember living in one of those rentals in town one winter when the county didn't have the money to move the ice jam out of Warm Springs Creek, and our house flooded out, so we had to move. I remember businesses, Main Street businesses, moving out and pawn shops and casinos moving in. Like my cousins, my whole generation of my family ended up leaving Anaconda. I moved on in 1997 and haven't been back because there's nothing there for me. I recall having a conversation with my daughter Izzy about attending this meeting. You know what she immediately said? Dad, do we have to move? So commissioners, I ask you to move on this road petition and vote yes, so we don't have to. Thank you for your service.
Thanks very much for the opportunity to be here this evening. My name is Nick Vandenbos. My client is the Smith unit. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's nerve-wracking to be up here. And it's nerve-wracking because of what people are talking about. They're talking about important issues. And if I'm at all successful here when I'm done, I hope that I can get us all on the same page that no one here is trying to stop mining. No one here is trying to stop economic development. And I think everyone here thinks that private property rights are important. And that's really what I want to talk about here. But first, before I get into it, I want to put a face to Smith Unit. Now, Smith Unit, I've had the good fortune to work for William Kriegel and Clark Wheeler for a number of years. They're not strangers to this community. William was instrumental in founding the Montana Center for Horsemanship here. That program at the university is now the second largest program here at Western. These are not people who don't have an interest in the community, and these are not people who don't care about the community. They're simply folks that want to have a fair value for their private property rights. Now, the Smith Unit owns the Smith Unit Ranch. That's about 7,700 acres in and around Axis Canyon. And the old abandoned road, the Axis Road, 2-track as I call it, runs through the heart of this ranch. And that's the best part of the property. It's got grazing, it's got wildlife, and it's got water. It has value as land. So why are we here? Well, a couple things I want to clear up. Like I said, we're not opposed to mining. And it's not because we aren't willing to sell the property. In fact, the property is for sale, and William Clark has been trying to sell it to HiDivide. They want to work with them. They just need a willing partner to engage with us. So we're here, but not because the property isn't for sale and not because my client doesn't want to work for the benefit of the county, but because the petition we feel is being used to leverage us to extract something at an unfair price. We don't think that that's right. We think that folks here would all probably agree that we should respect and value private property rights. So let me just recap briefly the current status of where we're at. Like I said, the property is for sale. It's been listed publicly. It was listed publicly since before the petition was filed. We didn't know about the petition. We weren't alerted to it. I found out about it about 5 o'clock on a Friday, and I was down here the next Monday morning to try to figure out what was going on. There wasn't an opportunity to engage in a discussion about a purchase because we didn't know that they were looking to buy the property. We didn't know that they were looking to buy access. Had we known that, we could have had a discussion then. This background has made things difficult, but despite that, my client, Smith Unit, is still willing to sell this property. And in fact, has engaged in extended negotiation with HiDivide's ownership. I understand that's a private equity group out of Chicago now, working with those owners to try to come up with a reasonable and fair solution to this issue. And we took what the petition says seriously. They're describing the development of a mine that's the same size as the Regal. So we went over to Regal, we looked at the scope of the operation there, we looked at the size, we looked at the impact to neighboring property. We said, okay, we're going to make an offer. You can buy 1,400 acres up here. That will include all of the abandoned road and will give you more than enough property to do what you need to do. And it will also serve a benefit of protecting the remaining property from the impacts of mining. We're not opposed to mining, but I think we can all fairly recognize that it does have impacts on property and it has impacts on neighboring property owners. That didn't work for HiDivide's ownership. They told us we only need 480 acres. Okay, fair, we said. We came back to them and said, all right, we can sell you that 480 acres and we'll include a right of way across the old abandoned 2-track. We can do that for $1.75 million. That's all the property that they said they need. And that value we arrived at by carefully looking at the value of the ranch as a whole, the particular value of this property, the Axis Canyon piece specifically, which is again the heart of the ranch, and the impacts that are going to occur to the remainder of the property when it's split. That's not the best deal in the world for us. It's certainly not a home run, and it's not what Smith Unit is asking for. It's in line with the price that my client sold 570 acres nearby. That was $1.5 million, and it's in line with the price that 800 is currently listed for 1.8. Neither of those have the unique attributes that Axis Canyon has. These are reasonable offers on fair terms. We have a counter for 1.25, so that puts us about $500,000 apart, which might sound like a lot of money. But the cost to improve the road alone for mineral development of the type that's being described here, we know from Mr. Raymond, is about $350,000 to $400,000 a mile alone. So for the 4 or so miles that we understand they need to improve, we're well over $1 million. When we start to think about the investment in the capital operation for a mine, that number really starts to get pretty small. And again, it's not an unreasonable amount that we are asking. This is a market value that we came to as a result of compromise on our end. That offer is on the table now. I'd advise owners can take it today, and we could be done with this tomorrow. It's tough because we've been in this position before. We've had to defend this property before. And instead of addressing that and coming to us directly, they went around and to the commission, the owners of High Divide went to the commission rather than coming and talking to the Smith unit. In our view, the right way to do this and the right way to treat private property owners is to come to them directly and talk about making a deal. I don't think that's a controversial idea. I think if you ask folks here, they would probably agree with it. And I want to emphasize, there's an offer on the table right now that would resolve this. And the Smith unit and High Divide could solve this issue privately, which is where it should be solved. And I want to briefly address the petition specifically before I close. And just to make a couple points, there was a mention of public access. As we understand the petition, there's no public access from this road. It's just a private cul-de-sac that's on private property for private use. And that's just simply not the lawful use of eminent domain in Montana. You can look at the eminent domain statutes. I certainly have spent a lot of time. This doesn't fall within it. And I also want to make sure that we understand that there's significant costs involved that are not being talked about in the petition. We heard a little bit about the condemnation process. We certainly are not looking for a fight with the county. We would love to avoid that fight. But Montana law says, Montana Constitution, United States Constitution, that if the government takes your property, you deserve to be fairly compensated for that. And when the evaluation of that compensation is made, it's about the entirety of the property. It's not picking and choosing a piece like we've done here in an effort to compromise and come to a resolution. It's the ranch as a whole. In our view, that gets into the millions of dollars pretty darn quickly. We do not want to have that fight. We don't want to put those costs on the taxpayer. Ultimately, we think that this petition is preventing a fair resolution. We don't think that leveraging a landowner is the right way to go about that. We know that the employees here are not doing that. We don't think that putting the threat of liability on the taxpayers is the right way to do it. What we think is if you're serious about making a deal for a major investment, you come to the property owner. And in that respect, I'm sure that landowners and taxpayers here are interested to see how the commission decides. That solution is simple here. There is an offer on the table from my client. It can resolve this situation now. And High Divide can move on and get to work with the timeline that is described to you. We don't want to stand in that way. We just want something that's fair. I appreciate your time. I appreciate everyone that's shown up. I hope that this has provided a little bit of background into what's going on here. And I understand it's a tough decision, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you. At this time, now we're going to open this up to individuals to voice their opinion, 2 minutes each. You can introduce yourself. I guess we got plenty here. We get started if you want, okay? Who wants to start? You want to take it first?
I don't know, that's what we were just talking about, in all due respect, these hearings, there's not gonna be an argument, decision, or anything going on. I guess, I mean, what I'm saying is, if you want to speak, give us your name, it'll be on the record to do it, you're welcome to leave. So with that said, I mean, just like you said, all these yellow shirts out here, I'm just guessing, there's a lot of purple ones this thing. So I do respect it, if there's people that want to talk against it, or for the Smith unit part, be willing to go first. Because I see our representative here, a lot of times at the sessions there, they do it that way. It's, first few people, say some, what they really want to do, and if you're, for the same thing, 'cause I agree with the previous speaker, and take 55 seconds to get up here, you're on the record just as much as the 2 minutes speech, so. If that would be fair for everyone. I think, if you like I said, you're welcome to stay, we're not running out, I mean, this is gonna go until we hear everybody done, but, if there's any, people who want to talk to the Smith unit first, scrub up there, we'll get your name wrote down, Daniels will get it recorded, we'll just go that way.
First, I gotta take my shirt off, because I'm gonna wear my truce t-shirt, because there's a lot of untruth here. And I'm Clark Wheeler, and I'm upset that I'm here. I should be at my son's baseball game. You guys should be at home with your family, because we all been fed this idea that somehow William is denying access. William, there is no public access there, as you can see. And William wants a fair deal. William is a principled man. When Kara came to him initially and said, we're gonna make our way in here and not pay you a dime, it went to court in Dillon. And the judge found in favor of William. He said, and in fact, you guys pay William's legal fees. And they did not appeal that to the Supreme Court because they knew they were wrong. And the judge said, you lost your right, you forfeited to condemn access. So here comes Ida By using the county to try and condemn access against William. It's like me coming to your house and saying, I'm gonna use your garage for a mechanic shop. And by the way, you're gonna let me use your driveway. I'm not gonna pay anything for it because I'm gonna make the county take it. There's a fair offer on the table. The value is justified. We're not going to fight with the county. William is not opposed to mining. He's a member of this community. And we want this thing to get done. So I appreciate the time to speak to you tonight. And I support the denial of the petition. Thank you. Sorry for the dramatics.
I'm Joel. Yeah, Joel Henley. Okay. Hi, folks. I'm Joel Henley. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for Hydroide Minerals. So I'm going to keep my shirt on just for now. But just to let you know, I live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, because really our talc is mined here. It's not used here. We ship this around the world. Josh and I were just in Japan talking to Toyota, Nissan. Most of you came here in a gas-powered car, which more than likely 80% of the cars in the world use this talc in their catalytic converter. We are the standard. Corning is our customer. Toyota is our customer. BMW is our customer. Everyone in the North America market uses our talc except for Tesla. That's it. But anyway, our talc is used in paints with Sherwin-Williams, PPG. It's in plastics with Exxon, shipped around the world. You know, it's just not some company in Chicago. These folks at Riverspan, we've been publicly owned forever, since '64. It's hard to be publicly owned because you are just a number, or just a staff. Now we're owned by a family that's already invested $12.5 million in new equipment in our facility here, $40 million to expand the Treasure Island mine. Now we need to get that next generation, because when I look customers across from me, they want to know, what's your life of mine? And they need to hear it 20 plus years. Right now, I can't really tell them that without this expansion. So we gotta have this expansion. And it's a very competitive market. We compete with China, with Pakistan. They bring stuff into Texas, they process it, it's government. So dollars mean things. Dollars mean things. These guys in Chicago are very smart about their dollars. We have to compete in the marketplace, that's why. So that's all I have to say. It's a great product. You guys make the world's best talc. Everyone will tell you that we're best in class in the world. Keep it up.
Next.
Mike Serino, Cerino.
My name is Mike Serino. I live here in Dillon. And I'm going to read, this is a letter that I wrote, and it appeared in the Dillon Tribune a couple months ago. But I think that I should read it in front of all of you. I support opening Access Canyon Road to provide access to the Smith-Dillon mine. High-Divide Minerals and its predecessors have owned the mineral rights of this mine since the 1940s. The Smith-Dillon talc mine was the original source for talc in the early days of the talc business in our area and supplied ore for shipping and processing at the Barrett's plant from 1943 to 1966. Exploration work in the 1980s and 90s proved additional ore reserves that will take the place of talc ore from the Treasure and Regal mines upon their depletion out in the future. Talc mining and processing operations have supported families in Beaverhead County with good paying jobs for over 80 years. Development of the Smith-Dillon mine will ensure sustainability of those jobs well into the future. And this will not be possible without access into the mine property. So, I'm going to speak to all of you in the green shirts. I spent over 40 years working in the talc business in southwestern Montana. Raised a family and retired a few years ago. It's my hope that the families who depend on the talc company can enjoy the same stability and I have had over the years.
That's your time. Thank you.
And two, yeah. And to be on the record, if you want to be on the record, we're going to have you come and give us your name. I don't care if you just say you support it or oppose it. We need your name, or we don't just raise hands and do that. I don't need your name if you don't mind. Okay, guys?
Eric Hoffman.
Welcome everybody here. This is Mom.
It's not.
I'm Eric Hoffman. I work at Montana Center for Horsemanship. I've worked for Mr. Creco for the last 18 years. I support what Clark said, agree with that. I am against this. But I've learned some things tonight that I didn't know about it, but William is one of the most honest people I've ever worked for. I think he's one of the largest contributors in this community. That's why I'm still here, why I enjoy working for him. But listening to people talk, he's not against mining at all. He owns land. He wants to be compensated for what that's worth and keep the community going. So I really want people to just think about that, as I hear people tarnish his name in the community. And it just, that's not the man that I work for. And I think everybody, if you got to know him, you know, meet him face to face and sit down and have an honest conversation with him, you probably see the same thing that I do. So, thank you.
Okay. Gotta be more.
Hi, my name is Kim Rogers, and I too support mining. I worked for Barrett's Minerals for about 20 years. I met my husband there. He worked there for 30 years. So in the talc industry, but mining too, somebody said this earlier, it's in my blood. I grew up in Butte. But I'm also a property owner in Beaverhead County, not on the Access Canyon area, but in an area that would be impacted once the talc is going to, from the mine to the mill. So there's a balance here because I've seen the good about mining. The gentleman was talking about where the talc in this area is used, the good part of mining, but I've also seen the bad part of mining growing up in Butte. So there's gotta be a balance between the good and the bad. As you can see, it's a large crowd, I'm talking to, I'm a little bit nervous, but anyway, as a property owner here, I'm very concerned about that. My husband, as a contractor, after he left Barrett's Minerals, went out on his own, so he had the opportunity to do some jobs for William. William is a great guy. I have no issues with William. He did a lot for this community, so there's got to be a balance between there. It shouldn't be at the cost to the people here in the yellow, and it shouldn't be at the cost to the people who are not wearing the yellow. So, as the attorney said earlier, you need to sit down and make an agreement, and you need to get all this on the table. Whatever that agreement is, it has to be in perpetuity, because when High Divide pulls out, like Barrett's pulled out, like Visor pulled out, there's got to be a cost to that. You just can't shuffle it off onto the next owner. So just be considerate of that, because the landowners here have been here for a long time. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else? My name's Dean Simonson. I'm an owner here in Dillon, have been here. I was born and raised in Madison County and been here the last 40 years. And when we talked about this, I take it your offer was 1.2, is that right? Okay, well, it's none of my business on that end. Thank you, I shouldn't have put you on there. But, you know, if there's a balance between the two, and you're talking about doing what you're doing, I think we have to work through this and maybe make some tax incentives or something like that, to where they can work together to get it. Now me, I'm on the side of High Divide, because what I've seen it done do for the community and for the different counties around. And I do understand the land. Mine does not, I don't have anything to board it. But if we can work it out that way, if not, I'd hate to have to see it go the other way. But it would, for the benefit of the people here in Dillon, it needs to be there.
All right. I'm Dan Nottingham. I'm a second generation miner, and there's many of you that are probably fourth and fifth generation miners. And so this is a very touchy subject. I grew up in Sheridan. My dad worked underground at the Beaverhead mine here, just crossing the treasure for 20 years with Dean Simonson. And I had the pleasure of mining talc against him for the last 15 years. So, like I said, it's a very touchy subject. And so, like I said, I know there's a lot of emotions on both sides. And I certainly don't, I wouldn't want to take anybody's private property either. So I do hope that we can come to some agreement and preserve this community. So I support it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hi, I'm Rebecca Jones. I'm the Executive Director of the Beaverhead Chamber of Commerce and the Dillon Visitor Center here in Dillon. And I have to say that William Kriegel is a wonderful chamber member of ours, as is High Divide Minerals. So as a chamber, I have to kind of walk a tight line with this situation. However, I must side on the side of High Divide Minerals. Look around this room. It represents 80 jobs, young families. I just left the early childhood education meeting with Headwaters Foundation out of Missoula, how we can help young families thrive in this area. This spring, we just experienced some job loss in